Hello and welcome to the Azam Sharp channel, and in this video I'm going to go through all the required necessary steps that you have to take to create and to integrate a SwiftUI application with Web API. Alright, now I will be using MVVM design pattern for this example, and I will be using a Web API which is JSON placeholder, so which basically means that it's simply going to return some dummy or fake data. So we're trying to consume this and then put it in a list control in our SwiftUI application. So currently we have started a new project. You can see it's just hello world. The first step in order to consume all of these different things is to create your model. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and I will say models. And I would create a new file, a new Swift file, which will represent the data that I'm about to download. And if you check the data that I'm about to download, it's actually a post. So like a blog post, which will have a title, which will have body, ID, user ID. I'm going to ignore user ID and ID, and I'm simply going to focus on title and body. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just call it post. Great. Now I can create a structure post, let title, which will be of type string, let body, let body, which is of type string also. And since what I want to do is to decode all of this JSON data into my model that I have created, I'm going to call it either I can say codable or I can simply say decodable. So I'm just going to say codable, that's fine. Great. Now the next step would be to first make sure that I can actually download the data, and for that I'm going to create a new group we'll call services, and we will go ahead and create a new file, a class, which will represent the web service. So I'm just going to call it web service, and web service will be a simple class, and it will have one function which will be get posts, and this is going to return you a completion handler, hopefully with a list of all the posts. So post, which is not really going to do anything else, so not really going to return anything. And this will be in escaping closure, meaning that we will be passing posts to somewhere outside, so that's why I'm decorating it with escaping property wrapper. Let's go ahead and create the URL equals to URL, and we can say string over here, pass in some URL. Let's go ahead and copy it. Now one thing I like to make very clear is that this is not like the perfect way of creating a web service. All right. Now, and since I'm actually adding a URL right over here, I mean, in real application, I would most probably create a constants or some sort of a structure or enum that will contain all the URLs. But we're trying to learn how to display the data on the SwiftUI list. So that's why I'm doing all of this in this way. Now I can actually go ahead and do it like over here and I'll be fine, it works. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and use the guard operator. And if the URL is actually a little bit error or there's some problem with the URL, and then I can simply throw an invalid error saying invalid URL. Okay, great. So we have the URL now. Now we can use the URL session, which is a built-in class in iOS framework, which will allow you to do networking calls. So URL session.shared.data task with URL and a completion handler. We already have the URL, so let's go ahead and pass in the URL. And we will get data, response, and error. So let's go ahead and get data, which is the actual data, response, and error. All right. And don't forget to call resume, because if you don't call resume, guess what? Nothing's going to happen. So we have data, which contains the actual bytes. We have error. So let's go ahead and unwrap the data. Guard let data equals to data, while the error is equals to nil. Else we can do some other stuff, like maybe we can throw a completion handler, and we can pass in nil. Make sure that you update your post collection to say that it is nil, it accepts optional. That's fine. If we do get the data, then we can do some other stuff. All right, and we can go ahead and even say return over here. So now the data, you can see it's available. It's already unwrapped. So we can actually say JSON decoder dot decode. And what we're trying to do is to decode a type which is post dot self, because if you look over here, the JSON that is being returned is an array of posts. So that's why we are decoding an array of post. The data that we are getting is data try with a question mark, which is try optional, and hopefully we're going to get all the posts. If this decoding actually fails, then post will be nil. And now we can actually call completion and pass in the post. Now, since all of this stuff will be passed to somewhere on the UI, it will be a good idea to wrap this with a dispatch queue.main.async so that this stuff is actually happening on the main queue instead of the background thread. So let's go ahead and pass it to the post. Good. Let's go ahead and first build our application to see if there are no errors. Okay, fine. And this also should be called, on line number 22, should be called inside the dispatch on the UI. So let's go ahead and wrap this up also. Dispatch queue.main.async, and then completion handler, passing it with nil. Perfect. All right. So hopefully we'll get the post, and then we're going to call the post, passing it in the completion handler, and whoever is interested can use this completion handler to get access to the post. So let's first try to see even if we can get access to the post. Now, if you go into the content view, you can see that right now over here, we have a body, which doesn't really display anything. You can see it's like simply a text view. So how do we move forward in displaying all the stuff right over here in a particular list? Now for this, it will be a good idea to start creating view models using the MVVM design pattern. The view model is going to supply the data to your view, whatever is being displayed on the screen. So let me go ahead and create a new view model. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called view models. And let's go ahead and create a particular view model. We'll start with Swift file. I will call it post list view model. I'm going to go ahead and create a structure, but you'll see later on that we'll have to create a class, but I will start with the structure post list view model. Now, one thing to note about this post list view model is that it represents the entire screen where you will display a list of posts. But for a single post, I will create a separate view model, which will be post view model. So kind of dividing my view model into two view models. This will be the parent view model. This will be the child, each post, kind of like a cell. So this will be providing the data to the cell of the list, and this will be providing the data to the complete UI. Now I can go ahead and say something like var post, which will be an array, which will be post view model, like this. All right. And we also have to make sure that our post list view model, whenever it is actually changed, it notifies the view that I have been changed. So in Swift UI, you can actually use something called an observable object. Now, observable object only works on classes, because if you run the application, it's going to tell you that the observable object protocol can only work if you are putting it on a class. But this is not a class, this is a struct. So let's go ahead and change it to a class. The other thing that we want to do is that anytime our post changes, anytime you assign it, then we want to notify, we want to publish an event. And that can be easily done by simply saying published. So published is the new property wrapper attribute in SwiftUI or in Swift language. So whenever you change the post, it's going to publish an event, and we can capture that event in the UI, which can refresh itself. All right, so we have post list view model. Let's go ahead and create an initializer for post list view model. In the initializer, we can go ahead and create maybe the web service. So we can actually say web service dot get all post. It is hopefully going to return us all the post in, and then once we get the post, we can simply go ahead and assign it to the post list view model. All right. But the problem is that post that is being returned is actually the array of post model objects. So you can't really assign the post model object to a post view model. First, let's go to the post view model and make sure that we can actually create those properties. So title, well, not title actually. We're going to create a property called, let's say, post, which will be of type post. In order to create a post view model, you better pass in a post, and we will assign it to the post. The title and the description will be the properties on the post view model. So let's go ahead and create title. And the value the title is going to return will come from the post object. This is only a read-only property. It's not changing anything. And then we have description, which is string. Actually, if you go over here, you can see it's actually body, not description. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are calling it body. That's good. And let's call it body also over here. We can call it anything we want, but let's just call it body. So post.body. All right. Even though we have created post view model, now we have to make sure that when we are getting the post from the web service, we initialize an array of post view model. So what we're going to do is we are simply going to say post.map, and in the map we can actually pass in the post view model.init. All right. Now over here you can see that we are calling it post.map, and post itself is an array. You can see it over here, but the problem is that this is right now optional. So we need to make sure that this is not optional. So if let post equals to post, we're going to unwrap it, and self.post, which is the view model, post.map, which is now the unwrapped version, and then we can say post view model.init. Hopefully it will compile now. Let's see. Okay, everything builds successfully. So this means that whenever you call get post, we're going to get the post, which is actually the data object or your model. We're going to unwrap the model. We're going to iterate through the model, pass each model to the post view model using this initializer, create a post view model array, which is assigned to the self.post property in the post list view model. Perfect. So now we can start actually using this. So let's go ahead and jump into our content view. Let's resume it. The first thing we obviously need is some sort of a list. We don't even have a list right now. So let's go ahead and create a list control. So let's go ahead and create a list. Now in the list we have to pass something. Well, we don't have anything to pass right now. So let's go back and first create our view model. So we're going to create a state private var, and we are going to be creating a particular view model in this case, which will be post list view model equals to post list view model. This is automatically, actually we have to not state, but observed object. All right. Okay, so we're going to initialize the post list view model, and if you look at the post list view model initializer, it's automatically going to call the web service and populate the child post view models. Once we have done that, we can actually go ahead and refresh the list. So let's go ahead and pass something in the list. Self.post list view model.post, the ID that is going to be used to make sure that they are different. Well, we don't really have an ID for that, so I'm just going to use the title of the post for now. Post in, and then text will be post.title. Let's go ahead and build that. Let's go resume. Now we may need to set up something in info.plist to make sure that we are able to do an asynchronous request. We'll see if we need that. Usually sometimes you'll see that you don't even see that kind of an error being thrown. But if we do see those errors, then we can fix it. But now you can see that it is actually working correctly. It is passing or displaying all the titles. That is actually pretty cool. One of the things you will see is that you're never going to be using the title to differentiate between different posts. And we simply kind of ignored the ID of the post that was being transferred to us anyways. So maybe we can utilize this. Let's go to the post. We'll call it ID, integer. And we will go over here to the post list view model, and we can also go ahead and say ID over here, ID, which is integer, which is coming from the actual model, self.post.id. Let's go ahead and build that first. And we already know that the ID of a post is unique, so we can actually go to our content view and provide the ID over here, the ID of the post. Because when you are displaying things in a list, what the list is asking you is to provide the ID or some sort of a property that makes the item in the list unique. So now let's go ahead and run this. I mean, the solution or the output will exactly be the same. It's not going to be different. It's still going to display all the titles. But what if you also wanted to display the body? Because if you remember correctly, we are actually returning the body of a particular post. So let's go ahead and display that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in a vertical stack or a V stack. And now since all of the items are flowing vertically, I can simply say post.body and it will start flowing in that direction. You can see that things are not really aligned correctly, so maybe we can actually go over here and say alignment, and maybe we can say leading so that everything is kind of like left aligned. There we go. Kind of hard to tell which one is which one is the title and which one is the body. So you can provide different font over here, like some sort of a title or something to highlight the actual title. There we go. So now you can see that this is a title and the remaining part is a body. And all of this information is actually being fetched from this particular web API. So now you have learned how you can use or integrate your SwiftUI application with a JSON Web API and display the information in a list control. If you like this video and want to learn more about SwiftUI, then check out my best-selling course on SwiftUI called SwiftUI Declarative Interfaces for Any Apple Device. This is the best-selling course with over 1,500 students enrolled, and this course is around 12.5 or even more than 12.5 hours, close to 13 hours, and it will show you everything that you want to do with basically SwiftUI. We're going to start with learning about building list and navigation. Then you're going to start learning about state and binding, very important. Then you're going to jump into understanding MVVM design pattern, how to create or how to use MVVM design pattern to create a complete app that will do get as well as post. After that, you will jump into property wrappers, forms, even integrating core data with SwiftUI. And finally, SwiftUI for all devices, meaning I'm going to show you how you can write apps that will run on SwiftUI for iOS, watchOS, as well as macOS. Now, the best way to get this course is simply to use the link in the description of the YouTube video. If you use that link, then you will get the best price, and to be honest, I get to keep a little bit more revenue from Udemy. So please use the link if you want to support my channel, support my videos. Your contributions really help and motivates me to create more videos. Please use the link in the YouTube description. And if you are interested, there are a lot of other courses that I have done. So try out all the courses. I'm very active in Udemy community, so I will be able to answer your questions also. So thank you so much, and go ahead and buy the course and enjoy the course. Thank you.